Hi everybody, it's Christina Quick, the Tarot Biz Mentor here from the Profitable Psychic Divination and Business Academy. Welcome to another video. So today I'm going to talk to you guys about intuition versus psychic ability. This has been a highly requested video, and it's probably about time that I maybe say something about this because there tends to be a lot of thoughts and perspectives out there that are kind of at odds with being intuitive and also being psychic. There tends to be this line in the sand, whichever side of the camp you tend to belong or reside on, about whether intuitive and psychic, is it the same thing? Is it not the same thing? How is it different if it's not? Okay, so let's get into this. So let's first let me pull up some definitions. I wanted to look at the definitions first. Now, we know that Oxford Dictionary definitions are not always reliable when it comes to metaphysics and psychic phenomena. And I mean, just look at their definition for which they don't really know. But I figured let's just start there because that's what most people are probably going to look into for themselves, right? So Intuition is the ability to understand or come to a conclusion about something without conscious reasoning. So it's just something you know. It's something that you don't really have to think about. You don't have to go through this logical thought pattern to arrive at a conclusion. It's just something that you intuitively know. Okay. Whereas psychic abilities or psychic means faculties or phenomena that are inexplicable by natural laws. Okay. So I mean, yeah, there is a little bit of a difference here, but when you work with psychics like I do, and I work with hundreds, thousands of psychics, I've also done this for full time. This has been my job, my full-time income as being a professional psychic. And I've done this since 2012 full time, and I've done it since 2009 as a side hustle, side gig. And so what I've noticed is, well, first of all, I've been privy to many hundreds, maybe thousands of conversations about this. I've talked to hundreds of people who are dealing and grappling with the idea that they're intuitive but not psychic. I've also been a fly on the wall in many online forums and groups, and I've even asked and polled my own group even and asked them, what do you think is the difference between that? Do you think there is a difference between it, and what would you say the difference is? And what I've come to the conclusion is that it's either, one of three things. There's three different types of people that I've noticed. One, the first person is someone who calls themselves intuitive, but is more on the analytical side, the more of the scientific side of, psychic phenomena in that way. That they don't necessarily believe in psychic phenomena, but they do believe in something. It's a little bit kind of like being agnostic. And then you have people who are intuitive but have had psychic experiences that they can't really explain, that they have those experiences, right? And so they're like, yes, there is something to this. And then you have people like me who are way on the other side of the camp and say, yes, psychic abilities, everybody has them and everybody uses them all the time. You just don't know it. And so I didn't just come out that way on that side. It actually took me 4 years of intense study, doing a psychic development program, and then another year on top of that, leading my own 1 year long psychic development program. So I don't want anybody to think that I'm sitting in front of you and trying to convince you that you're psychic. But what I know, the reality of that is that you need those experiences to prove that to yourself. And honestly, you can't have those experiences if you don't seek them out. So that's the kind of conundrum that many intuitives are in, is that they don't know how to work on their psychic abilities, or they don't know who to work with or how to do it. And so they don't have those experiences backing up that psychic phenomena is real, and that in being intuitive and being psychic is pretty much the same thing. That's kind of a realization that comes much later after many years of psychic development. And so my intention for creating this video is to share with you my thoughts after hours and hours and hours of psychic development training that I've been, I've done with other people, done with other coaches and trainers, and also have led on my own. And so that's my intention, is to give you this perspective of what I've basically learned since then. What I have learned is that people that identify with being intuitive but not psychic are what they're really saying is that they're an untrained or underdeveloped psychic, and that they perceive their intuition as something that's non-magical, um, because they believe that, intuition is more of like a psychological thing. They think it's more of like a natural type of thing. I've even heard people that believe in, like, auras and energy fields and EMFs, and like being able to perceive EMFs but not psychic abilities, as if it's more scientific when you base it that way. Okay. In which I'm not disagreeing. I actually do 100% agree with that. It's just that it's just one piece of the puzzle. It's not the full puzzle, that we're seeing. It's not the full picture that we're seeing. And so it's intuition is really a non-magical thing for a lot of people. A lot of tarot readers I know are non-magical, meaning that they don't really identify with manifestation work or law of attraction, or any of the more magical types of ways to read cards or to offer readings of that similar vein, like, Lenormand or some other cartomancy, or even using runes or some other divination system, right? It's mostly diviners that really cling on to the intuitive and really reject the whole psychic thing. And that's not a coincidence, because diviners are people that are really in the beginning stages of psychic development. I remember back when I was just starting tarot that I thought that I really just had this limiting belief that there was no way people could do real psychic readings without divination or without some sort of prompt. And, I actually carried that limiting belief around for a long time, and I really rejected it. And then what happened was, as I started hooking up with people that actually knew how to do readings without cards and could show me how to do it. And so from there, it's just a matter of, you simply don't know how to do it. And if you don't know how to do something, you can't visualize it, and therefore you can't manifest it, right? It's just not an option for you. It's not a possibility. You don't have that frame of reference. And so another thing that I've noticed that intuitive and people that reject the word psychic or claim psychic is that they have very, very little confidence, no confidence, really, in their intuitive abilities. It's just something that's kind of fleeting, that they can sometimes grasp hold of and sometimes that they can't, and they don't really have control. So when I hear potential students of mine, or when I hear students of mine talking about in my programs and groups, and having conversations like this, what I'm really hearing is that they lack control and they lack confidence. And that can be very easily remedied with mentorship and instruction. So that's one thing. So anyways, how does intuition differ from psychic abilities? Okay, so let's talk about the people in the middle of the campground here, where they are intuitive. They're more on the scientific mindset of it, explaining it through, like, EMFs or some other. There's a bunch of different theories out there. But they've also had some psychic experiences, and so they're kind of in between, right? They have a little bit more of an understanding of psychic abilities than someone who doesn't have any psychic experiences, but they're not really, like, sold on it. They don't really believe. So I can actually work with these people a lot better and a lot easier than the other types of people. And that's because, there's that desire to learn more. There's that curiosity there. And so honestly, I mean, the difference between intuition and psychic abilities, the truth is that I can make a bunch of different videos on different perspectives, and there's a lot of different viewpoints that I could take on this. But for simplicity's sake, I really want to just stick to the most, summarized, condensed version of this as possible, and keep it to one main thought right now. And the difference between intuition and psychic abilities is that our psychic abilities are simply just vehicles. They're simply just methods or mediums that we can harness and we can develop intentionally, that delivers different types of intuitive information. So what I hear most from intuitive people is that they don't realize that they use their psychic abilities, but they do. They just don't have the ability or the experience to discern how that intuitive information is being given to them. So most intuitive people that I know will just say, I just know it, or it's a gut feeling, and they can't really explain how they know it, or how they're coming to that information. But whether you're intuitive and don't believe in psychic abilities or not, doesn't matter. There is a split second, there is a microsecond there where you are filtering that intuitive information somehow, and it's being delivered in some way. It's just that you don't have enough experience and enough wisdom to with your own energetic body to differentiate and to discern where and how that intuitive information is coming from. Okay, if that makes sense. But all psychic abilities and all intuition is all coming from the same place. Let me see if I can put this into a metaphor that would make it a lot easier to understand. So let's just take art, because I tend to use art a lot as a metaphor, because in my opinion, art is basically what is most closely linked to psychic abilities. It's an art form, and psychic abilities are simply interpreters of intuitive information, right? So let's talk about painting. We'll talk about painting. So the way I look at people who just claim to be intuitive and not psychic, I tend to see them more as finger painters, right? They use their natural assets. They use their natural fingers to paint, right? And whether the artist uses their fingers or whether they use expensive paintbrushes with different bevels and different angles that they can get into, it all comes from that the inspiration to create art all comes from the same place. It's all from the same plane of existence. But when you learn how to do different mediums of art, like when you start learning how to paint with paintbrushes versus your fingers, you're going to be able to get a lot more refinement and a lot more control. And you can start adding in tiny little details, and you can get context really easily. And you can start getting, filling in those little nooks and crannies that would not otherwise be available to you if you had just used your stubby, awkward fingers to paint. And does that really mean that people that who finger paint aren't talented painters? No, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that you can't be satisfied and go your whole life just being a finger painter. But it doesn't mean that that's all that there is to it, and that nobody else can do anything other than what you can do, just because you are not willing to explore different mediums in which to express your art. So I hope that makes sense. So there's a lot of talented, intuitive people out there, and and that's sometimes it's enough. I think what I'm trying to say here is that there's a lot more to explore out there, and there's a lot of different ways that you can take your art, or in this case, your intuition, to the next level and become really accomplished and really proficient as a professional psychic. But the major hang up that most intuitive people have is that they also think that you can't call yourself psychic if you can't predict the future. And that's what's in popular media. I'm not going to deny that. That's kind of like what is out there in the opposite side of the culture, meaning the people on the other side of the table, the other side of the phone, the other side of the webcam, whatever, however you're delivering this intuitive information, right? Is that, being able to predict the future is just one way that you can express your psychic abilities and express your art. So, so to summarize, psychics are intuitive, and intuitives are psychic, but when we develop our individual psychic abilities, we become stronger and more refined in our intuitive abilities. And when we do that, we become more confident, right? And we begin to have more control over it. And that's where there's nothing that anybody else can say or do for you other than something you're going to have to do for yourself. And that's to sign up for psychic development courses. That's to sign up for, do psychic readings with your friends and play and test it out, or join a psychic circle or something along those lines, or join one of mine when they pop up. I run them a couple times a year. And when we do that, we become more confident, right? Because that's what everybody wants. They want more confidence. And when we're more confident, we're more in our power, more in our control. And when people claim the word psychic, they're not doing it because they are trying to showboat or show off, or they're trying to insinuate that they're better than someone who maybe doesn't claim the word psychic. But what you have to understand is that if you're just an intuitive person and you don't really get the whole psychic thing, is that there's years and years and years of hard work and dedication that it takes to master and to work on and even open up these skills. So when people claim the word psychic, they're not doing it to make other people look bad, but they're doing it and they're wearing it like a badge of honor because it means something to them. They have worked hard to overcome their limiting beliefs. They've worked hard to, step into this realm of potential that the word psychic, the title psychic can offer for people. And here's the cool part, right? Anybody can develop their intuition and their psychic abilities, and they can claim these powers for themselves. It's not something that's like only reserved for special people. It's available to everyone all of the time, and it's actually available to you right now. And it has to be something that you're brave enough to go after, and it has to be something that gives you confidence and power. Otherwise, you'll just continue to hide from it. You'll continue to suppress it, and it will continue to be a trigger for you. And if you're a tarot reader, you're some other type of diviner, or you offer intuitive services, but you're not booked and you're not making the income that you want, everything that you desire for yourself and your business is on the other side of your hangup of claiming to be psychic. On the other side of that disbelief is expansion and a world of magic. And I hope that in my heart of hearts, I hope that this video inspires you to dip your toes into it and to settle into that word a little bit more, and even the potential. I hope that this expands you to the potential of what it means that, owning the word psychic could mean for you, and what it could mean to invest your time and energy to develop these skills for yourself, and the world will open up for you. It's really quite amazing. And so I'm curious, do you struggle with this? Is this something that you really struggle with, shifting from, calling yourself just intuitive to stepping into your power as a psychic? And I want you to take this time to just look within yourself, because you're going to have the answer inside yourself, right? You know if this is a trigger for you or if it isn't. And you know that there's some wisdom in what I'm telling you. If you can get over it and you can look into it and see what it is for yourself. And I want you to look into yourself and see how much of that struggle that you feel with claiming the word psychic is perpetuated by people or situations or events outside of yourself, and that actually don't have much to do with you at all, which is probably one of the most profound and stark realizations you will have about that. And I hope that you transcend your limiting beliefs about what it means to be psychic and what it means to be intuitive. And if you don't, then you don't. But I hope that you join us on the Psychic and Proud side. I mean, it's fun and it's liberating, and I wouldn't change it for anything. So comment down below and let me know what you got out of this video, and I will see you in the next one.